You're welcome to another episode of Called to Marriage. My name is Thomas.
And I'm Marcia.
Thanks for being with us. Today, we want to take a look at boundaries and how boundaries are important to our living, especially as a married couple. I think boundaries are so essential that we sometimes don't even consider how we need them until something really happens that makes us feel terribly bad. And we ask ourselves, how could this happen to me? That was Charlie, by the way.
Yeah, you may hear him in the background. He's just nearby, but, not in the shot.
Yeah, so greetings to everyone watching this, listening to us. We're getting to the end of the year, and we want to say hi to everyone. Thank you for being a part of this channel, for listening to this podcast. We hope that you're learning something good out of this. And we hope that today's episode also brings light to an area in your life. Please feel free to comment or let us know what you think, what you're learning. We would like to engage with you.
All right. Today's scripture comes from Job chapter 38. Job chapter 38, verse 11. This is God speaking. He said, "This far you may come, but no farther. And here your proud waves must stop." I thought this was a funny verse, but even God set boundaries. From the beginning of creation, he established the boundaries for the water, and for the heavens, and the firmament of the heavens. He established boundaries. So that lets us know that boundaries are something that is very important. And we as human beings must also establish boundaries.
Mm-hmm.
Is this something I'm good at? Not so much. Is it something I recognize as important though? Yes. And it's something I want to, think through today with my husband and with you all, in hopes that we'll all be edified. And this can be something that we commit to working on for the protection of ourselves, our home, our children, because we've alluded to this in other episodes, the fact that as you become an adult and as you reach different milestones in life, you realize you have to be able to set boundaries with people, set boundaries generally. Yeah. Otherwise, people will just, sorry to say, walk all over you. And they're not ill-intentioned all the time either. It's not that people are ill-intentioned, but people just say whatever they want and do whatever they want. And they don't mean to offend you. They're living their life. And you have to be able to set a boundary for your family so that, so that you can be protected and live your life the way that you want to live it, or the way that you feel that God has called you to live it. Better said that way.
Right.
Yeah.
So there's a little backstory to this episode. I, as a man, as a husband, even before I got married, I have a rule. I don't reply to text messages from the opposite sex after 9:30 p.m. Done. That's my boundary. Unless you're family, or unless we specifically schedule the time, which would not happen, that I'll schedule a time with, the opposite sex to talk at 10 p.m. or at 11 p.m. So that's my boundary. And I think that's important. And I've run into certain instances where people thought, why would you, I can't call you at 9:30? And I'm like, no, you can't. It's not about you. It's nothing personal. It's for me. I have nothing to discuss with you beyond 9:30 p.m. I have other things to do, especially now that I'm married. After work, when I come home from, say, 6 o'clock all the way to 9:30, I'm done. I want to be with my family. I'm not interested in talking to you about anything. I don't hate you. I don't dislike you. Whatever you have for us to talk about can wait. that for the next day. We can talk about it. But I find it so very important because sometimes we can get sucked up into having sometimes meaningless conversations. Like you just and the fact that people always say, "I saw you online." Like, yeah, but I saw your message. I just don't reply to messages after 9:30. But then they say, "Well, but you were online. I saw you, and I kept sending you messages, and you didn't reply." And I'm like, I don't want to open myself up at that time of the day, because I'm not interested in talking with you about anything at that time. And I always ask people, "Can you respect that?" And usually they understand. Now, what that does is that for me as a man, I think it's very important because I I don't want to open myself up to things to, get into my family, to get into my heart. One of the things that I'm very concerned about is to not become the doorway through which, sin or something that I don't want enters my household. So it's part of the gates that I have to my heart. Like I'm not talking to you if you are, a female after 9:30 p.m. And I think that's good. You don't have to do that. It could be anything, but for me that helps. I can put my phone away knowing I'm not replying any lady after 9:30. My wife knows that. I'm not chatting any lady after 9:30. It's good. It brings sanity to my mind, personally, to my heart. I don't engage in any, if we're gonna talk, it's gonna have to be in the day, period. And that's one of the boundaries that I have. So it's out of that we thought to, talk about boundaries on this podcast. And I think of two words when I consider my boundaries. I consider time and I consider character. My time is very important to me. Like I don't have time to have just respond to any message at all. And the second thing is my character. If you can chat me at 1 a.m. as a lady, it communicates something about who I am. As a husband, if you can, in the comfort of your home, send me a message, a random hi, hello, what's up, how you doing, what are you up to at 1 a.m. and I reply to the message, it speaks volumes of how my household is and you can just read into it. Maybe you could be wrong, but you can still read into it. Maybe this guy is even bored. He doesn't have anything doing at 1 a.m. But he's married and his wife is probably at home and he's probably somewhere. You can read a lot into it. So I just won't reply to it. So it's about my character and my time. I don't want to just casually be responding to messages, especially, and sometimes I do it with men too, but mostly with females. No, I won't reply. So that was me just giving an example of a boundary that I have in my life.
As I said, I'm not an expert on this topic whatsoever, but I'm just, again, thinking through. And I don't know, as you're talking about like letting things into your psyche, basically, one of the things that I thought of for myself, this is not a boundary that I have well established in my life right now, but I probably need to, is, just the influx of information generally, messages from people, news, every kind of information. I mean, things are just flooding our minds.
Yeah.
Nonstop. Especially if your notifications are on, forget it. I mean, it's just nonstop messages, nonstop notifications. And I think that's a boundary that we all need. You can decide, the level to which you would like to take in information. But in this, in the age of the internet, certainly we shouldn't take in everything that's available to us. Right. There is just way too much information out there. And we need to put boundaries in place as to what information we're willing to take in, at what time, for how long, in order to protect, to guard our hearts and our minds.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I was thinking about that. I'm in group chats that are, all day, messages coming in all day long. And then, I watch YouTube new videos being published every single day, all kinds of, content that I'm subscribed to, some that I'm not subscribed to that the AI is recommending to me, like a lot of things. So it's really important to set boundaries as to what is entering your mind and your spirit and your heart.
Yeah.
Because out of the overflow of the heart, the mouth speaks. And I've noticed that I speak a lot of the things that I see, hear, and internalize throughout the day. So be careful what you take in.
Yeah. The Bible says that we should guard our hearts with all diligence, for out of it flows the issues of life. And it's very important. I like everything you said about information. The way that I think about it, it's like, you started off by talking about even in God's creation, how there are boundaries. We know what happens when the ocean or the sea crosses its boundary. It's not good. It cannot be good. Like for us humans, it's deadly. It's catastrophic. It's like we run when we see the ocean cross its boundary. Now, when it's on its boundary, we love it. We go to the beach, we enjoy it. It comes and then it goes. It comes and then it goes. The moment it crosses the boundary, it's danger. What do? We run. And that's how I look at it. The moment you cross the boundary, it's a run away from it. It's like, nope, no. I can't take this. I need to get out of here right now. And that's how we ought to be. So we need to set blocks perhaps in our minds for the flow of information. And in that regard, the way that I think about that too is at 30 years, I know so much, even though it's very little compared to, the amount of information in the world that any individual can take. But at 30 years, I just know so much on anything I want to do. I want to write a book. I've been to college. I've written papers. And I know so much without even going to Google to type in anything. If I can sit down and give myself time, the quantum of information I'll be able to reproduce from all the years of schooling, the experiences I've had traveling to other countries, from my own society, the culture that I grew up in. If I am able to seize the moment and give myself time, I would spit out a good amount of information. But we don't give ourselves that time. We always think, the thing is out there. We need to get more. We need to get more. And so it comes in and then it goes. It comes in and then it goes. And we don't really get developed as we are supposed to. So when it comes to information, I just always want to give myself time first. I want to understand what I know first. Then if I get to a point where it's dark within my mind, like it's blank, like I need to ask somebody, I need to know something about this, then it's more purposeful, so that when I go on, say, YouTube, and I want to see a video, it's very targeted. I got to this point and I need this information, this particular piece. I needed to complete a puzzle in my mind. So that search is very specific. I type it and then take the information. And then once I have it, I'm out. I'm not just, casually open to watching videos about every camera in the world. I like cameras. I like video production. I'm not just casually watching videos of every review, camera review, lens review. No, I am very specific about my search. And even that, it can still get out of hand. So I think it's important for us to give ourselves time and to trust that we know something. Just keep telling yourself that I know something.
With information now, I don't, at risk of going on a tangent, but if you take in too much information without taking time to process it, it becomes a hindrance instead of a help.
Right.
Good learning breeds innovation, I think. You learn the rules so that you can strategically break them, I like to say, so that, to make new paths to forge, into new
Make use of
territory.
them.
Yeah. So if you don't give yourself time to be quiet and still and create a boundary that says, this is enough information, and sit with the information that you currently have, and then see what you can make of that, you won't be a creative person. You'll just be like a machine. You'll just be repeating everything that you hear instead of, critically kind of breaking down the information that you have in your mind already in order to kind of rebuild it into something new. So, yeah, boundaries. And there are other kinds of boundaries, but anyway.
Yeah. I when you're talking, I just thought about this. There's a quote that I wrote 30 things that I want to share at 30 years. Oh, now that I'm 30 years, I have 30 things to share, and I'm going to be doing a video on that. So you guys watch out for that.
On his channel.
Yeah, but
most likely anyway.
Yeah, on my channel. One of the things I wrote down, and at this point I have about 80 something things. So I'm going to have to like really dig down into 30 things that I want to put out. But one of the things I had in my notes is if I don't learn to imprison myself, somebody or something is going to imprison me. Now, prison, has a negative connotation to it, but just think with me here. If I'm not able to capture myself and hold myself captive and tame myself, something is going to. It's either maybe, social media or the flow of information is going to just turn me into a captive. And like you said, I'm not even getting time to process. So you taking time to process is you imprisoning yourself. You saying, okay, I'm staying here. I'm not taking anything. That's you arresting yourself to say, these are my walls. I need time to process. And then you give yourself the time. And that's where innovation exists. That's where creativity exists. That's where you've heard of nobody who ever wrote a compelling book by just roaming around and not, taking time to go into their minds, into their heart, to look at what it is they want to put out there in the world. Everyone who's done or achieved something that we like, something that inspires us, had to sit down at some point and spend time with themselves. And that's where growth actually happens. When we are not doing that, we are not growing. It seems as though we're just existing when information is just flowing in and out of us. We watch like 10 videos or 20 videos in a day, and we can't even really talk about any of them with depth, like how we handle the information and how we processed it and what we are taking out of it. We can't. After 2 days, we don't remember anything. We watch movies, we watch videos, we watch so many things, and we can't really capture anything. And we are not developing when we do that, because movies in and of themselves are not bad. Videos in and of themselves are not bad. They teach us something. They relay something to us, but we get the best out of them when we take time to sort of brood over them, to say, okay, I'm going to sit on this for a while. And unfortunately, we even as Christians, we do the same with the Bible. You can watch 10 sermons a day and not remember one verse that was said or quoted in any of the videos. So there's almost no learning. But when we take time, maybe you watch a sermon, you let it, flow into you. You take time, you go back, you read the verses again, and then you quiz yourself a little bit to ask yourself, what was he really talking about? What was the word of God in this? And you write, you talk about it with people. It stays with you. And anytime you think about something that was shared in the video, you go back to it like, oh, I remember this pastor talking about this verse here. Let me open it to you. Were you going to say something?
Not necessarily. I guess in my mind, I was trying to see where we would go next. And I was thinking of asking you, there's a lot that could be said on the topic of, information.
Yeah.
Or we can, I don't know, are there other things, other areas that we should consider? I think it would
As
be,
far as boundaries,
yeah, I
yeah.
think it would be good if by the end of this episode, people feel inspired to consider and create boundaries for themselves in their own lives. So
Yeah.
boundary, concerning information is one thing, messaging is another that could lead us into boundaries around, relationships, boundaries about your body. I don't know what
Yeah.
else comes to mind when you think of boundaries. Where do you think it's important that a person set boundaries for themselves or in their lives?
I think, well, generally speaking, boundaries communicate um, who we are to people. Boundaries tell people, oh, this is who he is. Even if they don't like you, for the first time, over time, they come to admit, they come to understand. You might not want to talk to him about this. Forget it. He's not into this. So it communicates. I'm always going back to values. It communicates your values to people. When you are able to set boundaries on anything, on what you eat, the food you eat. You might sit at the table once and reject a particular food, and everyone is going to be like, who does it? Like when I was in China, my class, someone brought Oreos to the class and everyone was happy about it. And then I rejected it. And then the lady was like, who doesn't eat Oreos? Like, who doesn't like Oreos? But the next time they brought it, she was like, I know Thomas wouldn't eat it. So right there, I had communicated something. Now, it's not that I hate Oreos. If my wife brought me Oreos, I might take one or two. But it's just that anyway. So when we are able to communicate our values, it feeds into all other virtues. Your confidence, your personality, your demeanor, you're in public, but in every sphere of life, your self-respect, your self-awareness, your self-image, like everything you care about, it communicates that to people. So when we let things fly, we're not saying to people, you can do whatever you want with me, it doesn't matter. We're not saying that, but subconsciously, that's how they take it. If they can just call you at 1 a.m. and you answer, hey, how's it going? They just take that as he's free, he's loose. I can just call him anytime. I can just text him anytime I want. When we sit at the table and the food is being passed around and we don't like a particular food, but we just, roll with it, we're communicating that, our no is not really no. Our no is kind of like maybe. And people are going to take you on with that. So the next time you say no, they would think you got to push him hard. I mean, he's going to say
people will
yes
test your
eventually.
boundaries.
Right. But when you say no, and no is no, and yes is yes, and Jesus talks about that. Let your yes be yes and your no be no. Anything beyond this,
It's from the evil one.
So boundaries are about communicating your whole being in different spheres, and it feeds, like I said, it feeds into all other virtues. Your self-respect, your respect, your self-worth, your image, your confidence. You become confident when people are around you, understand you for who you are. It feeds into your confidence. You know that they get you, and when you say no, nobody is gonna be like, I'll say it one more time. He usually says no twice, and then maybe if you push him harder, he would say yes. Like, no. Like this morning, my wife made us breakfast, and she asked 2 eggs or 1 egg. I said 1 egg. She came back around, showed me the eggs. These eggs are so small. You sure you don't want to take 2? I said 1 egg. Thomas, look at these eggs. They're so small, babe. 1 egg for me a day.
I was like the tempter. Get thee behind me, Satan.
I had to communicate that to her. Like, I want 1 egg. Doesn't matter what the size is. 1 egg. Now, there have been days when, she made 3 by accident, or maybe we only had 3 eggs left, and she was like, I'm going to make them all. And then she splits one in two. And she's like, babe, I'm gonna have one and a half. You also have one and a half. I won't fight her. She's already done it. I'm not gonna say I told you I want to eat one egg
It's not
a
by
day.
force, please.
It's not that eating more than one egg is so like detrimental to me, but it's part of what I've decided to do. And I need to let her understand that one egg a day.
I guess if there's anything I should take away from this podcast episode, I should add to it a self-awareness that I at times push people's boundaries when I shouldn't. I think I am okay, I won't say whose daughter.
Better not.
I remind myself of someone. Respect people's boundaries.
Yeah.
But yeah, boundaries and the emotions behind it. You know what? I wish I could remember. If I remember, I might leave a comment below on YouTube anyway.
What's it?
I heard someone actually, because I like I've said from the beginning, I'm not an expert on this, but I heard on a different person's podcast, they invited somebody to talk about boundaries. And I just thought she really said a lot of good things about it. If I can remember, I will comment it if it comes to mind. But talking about also the emotions that come with that, because people will not like it sometimes when you establish boundaries about the things that you have boundaries about. When you establish your boundaries with somebody else, sometimes people don't like it. And also sometimes you don't like how you feel that you have to set a boundary with someone, and you feel like people should just, you know what it was red table talk. Anyway, with Jada Pinkett Smith.
Oh yeah, Will Smith's family.
Yeah. I liked some of the points that the lady that was on there made. The expert that they had on the show.
Yeah.
Anyway, idea being, it's not going to feel good to have to establish boundaries with certain people. And they also, they legitimately might not like, you setting that boundary, but it doesn't have to be something that has offense and animosity in it. It really can be neutral. This is my preference. This is my boundary. And, for people to just respect it, Yeah. You have to teach people to,
Yeah, you do. You have
treat
to.
you in the way that you would like to be treated, or to treat your boundaries with respect, because there's a reason why you set them. They're not made haphazardly or just like trivially. They're made with thought and with conviction. So when you have a boundary,
Yeah.
I
like what you said, by the way. The reason why we have conflict sometimes when it comes to boundaries is because there are just so many interests competing. People have interests.
Competing
you have
interests,
interests. And so it's not the persons themselves. It's not that they don't like you, and it's not that you don't like them. It's just your interests competing. So if you're able to see past the person, and so I always say that boundaries actually go along with good communication. If you say it once and they don't get it, it means they didn't understand you when you said, "This is how I want it. This is how I want my child to be treated. I don't want you to give this to my child." Like when my parents came here, we don't like to give phones to Charlie. But, he's a baby. He sees the screen of the phone, my parents' phone, and he wants to grab it. And then they would just easily hand the phone to him. And I'll tell them, no, don't give him the phone. I don't want you to give him phones. No, he's too small. He doesn't need to be holding phones now. He'll get there. Even though we have phones in our hands, every time, but it's part of the training that we want to give him. And my parents understood, like, okay. And my dad was like, very soon he's going to have a tablet. I said, no, he's not going to have a tablet very soon. It won't be very soon. And then he was like, kids these days have tablets. They go to school with tablets. What are you talking about? He's going to have his own tablet very soon. He's going to be on his own screen very soon. And I said, no, he's not going to be on his own screen very soon. This is how we want to train him. He's not going to be used to screens at this point in time. He needs to focus on other things. We want to grow him in a different way. So that exchange right there communicated something to my parents. Now, I watched them do something. My mom had Charlie, and I think she was on WhatsApp or whatever. She called me to come get Charlie because she wanted to text someone on WhatsApp. She called me and she said, "Can you grab Charlie? I want to make a quick call, and he wants to play with my phone." Now I quickly understood that they got it. to the point that, to the extent that she's been calling me to come get him away so that he doesn't kind of like fidget or play with her phone, which is good. Means they understood. But if I'd seen them again trying to still give the phone to Charlie, it would have meant they didn't understand. And at that point, I would have to calmly explain to them, "Mom, this is why I don't want him to have a phone at this age. Can you understand that? It's nothing personal. It's not against you. I would do that. I'll tell any other person the same thing." And then they will understand. I think there's a quote in Sun Tzu's The Art of War that when the commander, I forget the exact words, but when the commander gives the first order and people don't get it, it's the commander's fault. The commander didn't explain well. He gives the troops the second command and they still mess up and they don't follow it. It's not the commander's fault. The third time, when it happens, they can get punished. And there's a story behind that. Yeah.
Yeah.
Charlie. He's just right here, by the way.
Yes. So I don't really have much else to say because I'm no expert. I was thinking in my mind when I realized it was Red Table Talk whether I actually wanted to link it. After all, I prefer to link Christian resources, but at the end of the day, I mean, I'm not giving it to you as a Bible. Here, go read it, and it's food for your life. It was really just a thought-provoking conversation with somebody who, is considered an expert. She wrote a book on boundaries, and I thought she said things that were thought-provoking. So you can go find the episode on Red Table Talk if you're interested. But yeah, I don't have much else to say because I'm still learning. Yeah.
Yeah. How about this? You don't have to do this, but list the top 3 things that you care about, and in life generally, the top 3 things that you care about. It could be about maybe your relationship. It could be about your finances. It could be about your marriage. Whatever it is, just write them down and ask yourself, what are the boundaries I have around these things? It's best to start with something that really sort of gets you emotionally. If you go out in public and, or you meet a certain group of people and you always come back home sore or unhappy about something, you don't deserve that. You don't have to be going back and forth feeling that way. And I think you need to deal with it once and for all. So something like that, you can write it down. I meet this group every week and I usually come back home feeling this way. So just give yourself the time to sort through your emotions and ask yourself, what are the points within my emotions that I don't feel good? Do I experience that with people, or it's just something about myself? So maybe you read comments on social media and it always bugs you, it gets into your day. If you don't take time to think about that, you might not even understand why you feel certain ways, certain times. But maybe it's because you read comments and you take them to heart. So maybe you can set a boundary that I'll just read the first comment about any post. If I want to comment, I'll comment. If not, done. I'm not going to read more than 3 comments on any video. Maybe that would be a good place to start. Sometimes there are like 1.2K comments, and we keep scrolling through and reading every comment and reading people's replies to those comments. Not always helpful. So you can just set a boundary. 3 comments on any content I consume. 3 top comments, done. Maybe 1 reply to a comment that I like. It depends on you. Just start something. So just
Mm.
give yourself time and think through how you feel as a person, and deal with your emotions, and start setting boundaries. And it's always nice to have an accountability partner.
That's funny that you say that. There's just like a slight, I don't know if tangent's the right word. It's on topic, but it's just like about me. And then I'll go back to the takeaway because I feel like the action item is the takeaway for this one. So you reminded me that, speaking of like how you feel about something, like when you experience it, when I watch videos, sometimes I don't enjoy them as much because I realized later on that I have scrolled through the comments and formulated a lot of my
Opinions
thoughts, yeah,
already.
before even really, watching all the content.
Coming with
And
prejudice.
yeah, that annoys me actually. So setting a boundary around that is a good thing. On my laptop, I have it where like I have an extension on my
Yeah.
internet browser that like I can't see any of the comments. So I can just watch the video, or like if you watch on your TV, if you have a smart TV, that helps with that. But if you watch like on your phone, you can just be scrolling. You're not even really watching the video. You're kind of like listening to the video, meanwhile scrolling through everybody's comments, and that's like you don't even really enjoy the video in the same way by the time you watch it like that.
Yeah.
But anyway, or you might be scrolling through the other videos, already gearing up, the next videos that you're going to watch before you've even finished the first one. It's just terrible. Terrible.
Why do we do that to ourselves?
Terrible. But anyway, yeah. So I'm with you on that. I think definitely today's episode, the takeaway should be action, reflection. Think about the important areas of your life, like I was saying earlier, your spirit, mind, body, spirit. What boundaries do you need to set in order to guard your mind, to guard your spirit, and to guard your body? I think is something we all should take the time to think about. And the other thing I thought too, this may be a lead into another episode, maybe not, I don't know. We haven't talked about offense yet, and I think it's a good topic.
Oh yeah,
because boundaries come with a lot of potential offense. But I don't think we should be offended. And when you were talking about your parents, I was thinking, like we don't have to be. I'm not saying I haven't been, offended about certain things before, but we don't have to be, because it's not like they're ill intentioned when they do things. They just don't know our boundaries. So it's up to us to, establish our boundaries with that person. And then likewise, when we're at the receiving end of somebody establishing their boundary, not to be offended.
To be understanding.
Yeah, to try to be understanding, or just, Yeah. That could be its own topic, but
I'll tell you, we usually get offended.
In general.
We usually get offended when we are not even sure of what our boundaries are. Like I said, good boundaries go with good communication.
Yeah.
Like, don't worry, you don't get it. But I'll tell you why I do this.
Yeah.
This is why I do this. We are very calm about it when our boundaries are established. They are clear in our minds. We don't really take offense at anybody doing it. We can give them the benefit of the doubt. No, you don't understand.
And even if you don't understand after I explain to you, that's also fine. Because I know why I've chosen to do what I've done. And it is what it is. Yeah. You don't have to like it. I'm sorry that you don't like it, but.
All right. On that note, it's been the Call to Marriage. Thank you very much for spending time with us. God bless you. Mm-hmm. We love you.
Quite the episode.
Yeah.